Men, listen. The world wants you soft, numb, alone. They want you scrolling, not leading, consuming, not building, coasting, not fighting. But you know the truth. You feel it in your chest. You were meant for more. That's why we built this brotherhood. Better. Not perfect men, not saints, men who bleed, sweat, and fight. Men who demand more of themselves. Men who refuse to settle. Here, we stand on 5 pillars: fitness, finances, family, friends, and faith. They're our code, our spine, our foundation. This isn't therapy. This isn't a retreat. This is a battlefield. We sharpen each other. We call each other out. We push until weakness breaks and strength is forged. Because legends aren't born, they're made. In the fire, in the grind, in the company of men who refuse to quit. This podcast, it's the first strike. The banner raised, the line in the sand. If you're tired of drifting, if you're sick of half-assing your life, if you're ready to fight for better, then you found your people. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Welcome to Better. Now let's get to work.
It's the 21st of September, 2025, and this is the inaugural first episode of the Better Bros podcast. Welcome to Brotherhood. Barrett, Don, awesome to be here.
Gentlemen, the inaugural podcast. I'm excited.
Man, it's been a while coming. It's been a long while coming.
I feel like we should have recorded this with Redmond riding on a horse, like wearing the Braveheart kind of face paint with like a big ass flag and stuff.
That'll be epic when we have an intro, right? We can still do some intro editing to get for our YouTube banner and all of that stuff at some point.
That's it. Yeah, great intro, man. I mean, that's kind of who we are, kind of why we started this thing. I mean, we all kind of know, and just to like avoid all the statistics, but there's like an epidemic of men being isolated and lonely because they're just drowning in so much comfort in this modern life that we live in. I mean, we're not really built for this. We've had thousands and thousands of years of community and brotherhood, and now we're just all so. I mean, even this podcast, we're isolated, spread across the world, but it's nice to be able to facilitate getting together and doing things like this.
Yeah, man. Regardless of which pocket, which country, which continent we are in the world, there's that deep desire of men craving a mission, a battle, crave that hunger of being more, accomplishing something, you know? And we all speak that language, regardless of accent, creed, color, or demographic.
So on that same token too, there's that theme that we share globally, but at the current moment, there's also another theme that's being shared globally that I pick up on when I talk to guys all over the world, and that is how easy it is to drift and become complacent and do the bare minimum and just get by and not check in on your friends and just living in isolation. It's so there's two things. We share that common goal of some of us wanting to get after it and be more, be better, and all that, while the rest of the world seems to share that other common goal of let's just get by with as little as we can, right? So some common themes there across the world, but it's cool because we've got a platform that'll bring us together where we can bolster one message and shut down the other. So I'm excited for it. This is cool.
Man, super, super excited. Well, since we on a roll and we've already shared pretty much who we are and what we do, maybe we could just touch on who we are as individuals. Mr. Barrett, how you find yourself here? What's your background? What's the home situation like? Just for those eyes that will be looking towards us for some guidance, some inspiration, or for shit posting, however they find themselves on the Better Bros podcast.
Yeah, my name's Barrett Nobel. I used to say I was a software engineer, Now I'm more entrepreneurial. I still do a lot of engineering. I don't know. I just feel like I'm a renaissance man. I like pretty much everything. I push my body and my mind, try to find my breaking points any possible way that I can. I'm I'm honestly endlessly fascinated with almost every part of life possible, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's overwhelming, sometimes it's awesome. I got a wife, 2 kids, a bunch of chickens running around, a couple dogs. Planning on getting some goats next year. We'll see how that turns out. It's just kind of all over the place, man. But yeah, it's just the general theme of there was something massively lacking in my life. That was just the sense of camaraderie and brotherhood that I feel anytime I talk with other dudes. Like I'm crushing it in so many different areas of life, but I'm just like there's just massive gap in there where I need to have this group of brothers to lift me up and simultaneously lift them up.
That is so awesome to hear, man. I've loved getting to know you over the last few years. Don, over to you, brother.
Yeah, my name is Don Hickman, Christian man, husband, father. Right now, accountant by trade, but really having fun dabbling in this Better Brotherhood area. Again, it's opened up some entrepreneurial doors that I didn't know existed. And like Barrett had said, kind of a Renaissance man, jack of all trades. I am just forever curious about everything in life, just always exploring and always wanting to know why and do better, be better. And that's sort of the origins of this group too, is that I kind of noticed that I was doing well in a lot of facets of life, but you also somewhere along the journey of life you pick up that wisdom where, like, if you're the best man in the room, then you're not learning anything. You need to surround yourself with better brothers, more intelligent people, sharper guys, whatever it is. And so, like Barrett, I found that you need brotherhood. You need people close to you. You got to surround. Heck, even Jesus surrounded himself with disciples, right? You need that. You need people to
Yeah.
push you and be better, and that's that wisdom. It's like, all right, I'm doing well, but could I be doing better, and what would it take to give me that push to do better? I mean, I think there's, I talked about complacency a little bit before, and it's almost like it's almost the default. If you're doing good and you're crushing it in a lot of areas, the default is just complacency and drifting. And I think every man has probably experienced that, even when you're doing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm a guy that asks, okay, I'm doing well now. What's next? What's the next thing to do? So, yeah, got tired of, that complacency that I felt, that gap, like Barrett had talked. I got tired of that gap, and I was like, it's time to build something here. It is time to surround myself with some sharp individuals, and we're all just going to be push each other to be better every single day. So that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm about.
Man, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, and both of these brothers are brothers out of the States. I'm on the opposite end of the world, out in South Africa. My name's Redmond Lowe. I'm a husband, a father, and a believer. These intros are always weird, right? Because you always want to go towards your titles, what you have. But at the base of it, I want to strip everything away. I'm a husband, a father, I'm a believer. I'm a man of faith. And I want to also clear up the fact that I'm a husband to one wife. In South Africa, polygamy is a real thing. When we
Is it
introduce
really?
ourselves, we used to say that. Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there with more than one wife. For me, I grew up in this habitual pattern of a generational curse. A father does what his father does and his forefathers did. And I fell victim to that as a youngster at the age of 12, thinking, smoking, all of these things. And when I eventually got out of this battle and was able to break free of these chains, I realized that I want to be a man that I had not seen in anyone display in my lineage, in my history, my uncles, cousins. So I can respectfully say that I'm the first man that I've grown up with that is actually an example, that can be an example to young boys or
Nice, man.
sons or a family. And I don't say that to be boastful and prideful. I say that because it's blood, sweat, and tears. I've been at the lowest of lows, and now I'm at the highest of highs, not because of who I am, but because who he is. So, with that said, there are so many guys that never reach that pinnacle of who they can be. It's always the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And the reason I've been in a position to spend time with you awesome guys that's on the other side of the world is because we share a similar vision for the fact that we've been passive, we've been dejected, we've done the wrong things, but we have learned from our mistakes time and time again. We have somehow managed to come out, and now we are going to say that we are going to do something completely different to be a voice of hope, to be a light in the darkness. Just a little bit of light can dispel darkness. And if we have that opportunity through a podcast, through a tweet, through a message of encouragement on our better platform that we have, then why not? Why not? We alluded to the fact that there are so many guys that want to, they just don't know how. There are so many guys that want to lock arms with another brother, but they got no compadres, friends, homies, because they're scared of being belittled. We live in this era where you can't be too masculine, but you want to be a bit soft, and you're stuck with this polar opposite of the in-between, and that leaves you as a guy that's inactive and does nothing. So we're here to break that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too, like authenticity. I think there's a lot of guys out there that are afraid to live authentically, and that literally keeps them from finding the right people who will push them to be better. Everybody's just sort of conforming to that same social group. Maybe they're hanging out with the same friends they had in high school, and they can feel the tug of wanting to talk about more, going deeper than sports and weather. You know what I mean? But that's not what their group does, and they don't know where that group is. So we're here to tell you this is where that group is. If that's what you're looking for, that's what this group is. We're here to push you to be better. We're here to talk about things that matter. The 5 pillars: fitness, finances, family, friendship, and faith. We're here to go deep on these things. I put a post out today on the old Facebook. I said the better group is like a bonfire chat with your bros, except it's going on 24/7 in a private network, and you can pick up on any chats you like. You can not subscribe to any chats you don't like. You can mute it, leave, go do your thing, come back, and the chats are all still going on. So that's just a little tidbit, a little sneak peek, a little description there of what we got going on at the Better Brotherhood. But we're always here. The conversation's always going. The fire's always warm.
I love that. Yeah, it's nice to be able to actually go live real life, and then have that. It's almost like a sanctuary in a way, of because we have to experience real life and go out and do things and be fathers and husbands and all that stuff. But it's nice to be able to just be like, I know in the back of my mind there's these group of dudes who are getting after it also, and it's nice to be able to come together once in a while and just chat about the things we've actually experienced in life. I mean, we're also bombarded constantly with all the highlight reels on social media, and at some point we're all just like, this is all just so fake and nonsense. Like, I know you personally versus what you're showing the rest of the world, and your life is not all this glamorous yachts and private jets. And I mean, I don't have any of those friends, but you know what I'm saying. But it's nice to be able to actually have decent human level conversations with the rest of your friends like that. And that's a spot on analogy of the fire's always cooking, and you can just come have those chats. I love that, man.
Yeah, it's almost become like a default for me, where I'm like, I'm busy, I'm doing the things, I'm working, I'm out with the fam, and then you get home, you're like, hey, I got a few minutes, let's see what the bros are up to, and then you just get like a few minutes of good conversation and some insightful thoughts and all that stuff, and then you're like, oh, I got to bounce again, and then you're out and you got to do your thing, and you get some spare minutes, check back in. It's awesome. It's a cool thing. We'll touch on all that and how it works later, but just a little tidbit of what we're about here.
If I go back to why this all started, right? And we go back to the anxiety, the discomfort, the crippling anxiety, the discomfort, the financial provider, the guy that has to be the authority, right? But you get to get that position, that power of authority, not as one that's a dictator that rules over your household with an iron fist, that has a slave as a wife and children that you just beat senseless and treat badly. You get a privilege. That privilege of authority is given to you. And if you don't understand how to manage that and deal with that, it really becomes uncomfortable. And you cannot do that on your own with your wife and kids. How do you bounce your ideas off other people? How do you face the difficulties of not being able to discern right from wrong, good or bad, yes or no. How do you speak to your brothers? Here's a big one. How do you speak to your brothers? Or which brothers are you speaking to about lust, about facing all these challenges, about wanting to accept an envelope under a table when you are looking at a bit of corruption or whatever it is that you could face? There's all these little things that we don't know we necessarily need until we're faced with or flung into an environment where we need to make a call and we've got no one to pick up the phone and call to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
so easy too to like you say, you got a decision. Maybe the day didn't go well with the wife, and you've got a decision to make, right? Do we continue this fight? Do I break the silence? Whatever it is, or same with the kids, you got a situation. It's so easy without bros to just take the easy path, right?
yeah.
Whereas you bounce it off the bros and the bros would be like, yeah, you got to table this. This has to be talked about. I understand it's a tough conversation. Do not let this die. Go have the hard conversation, right? Versus just taking the easy road and yeah, we're just gonna bury that and pretend it didn't happen, right? And then it's just gonna be a downward slope from there. So yeah, that's the benefit, discernment. I love the way you put that, Redmond. The discernment of bouncing it off the bros and what to do. That's
And
awesome.
then
Yeah,
the other
there's
reality
been
with,
a couple
yeah,
times in my life where I've known I needed to have a difficult conversation or something along those lines, and I did exactly that. I just buried it. Like I easily just completely ignored it, and it just sat there and festered and festered and festered until there was either a tipping point of I'm just going to end the relationship over this sort of thing, or I'm actually going to have this conversation. And it's it's been interesting to be able to have a sounding board for those kind of thoughts instead of just sitting there spinning circles, ruminating in my own head, and be like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And I mean, I'm not even a very indecisive person, but
Right.
sometimes those things just like you get a little tiny cut on your hand, and if you just ignore it, it's just gonna balloon into a huge infection. But if you're like, hey, I got this cut, like here's my thoughts on it. What do you guys think? It's nice to be able to have reasonable sounding boards for those kind of situations in life.
yeah. If I go back to the statement of men not knowing they need a brotherhood, and when they find a brotherhood, just because they've said yes doesn't mean that's the solution, right? They've said yes, but it requires work,
Mhm.
perseverance, hard work, unrivaled dedication from time to time. There's other seasons that you coast, that you become comfortable, but there are times that it's really, really digging deep every single day. I wanted to bring up a stature, which is the divorce rate. I just picked it up quickly in America and then in South Africa. So in South Africa, it's 2 out of 1,000 people get divorced. So 50% of first-time marriages end in divorce. In South Africa, it is 5 out of 100,000 people. So the percentage is slightly lower. But we've seen an increase, right? Everybody knows somebody that got married, and you're like, oh, they got married recently, but they divorced. And you're like, oh shit. Other times you say, could have seen that coming from a mile away. And if I go back to what Barrett mentioned 2 or 3 minutes ago, was I had all these issues. And where were they? Lifted up the rug, swept them under, opened the closet, threw them inside. And then what happens is we subconsciously say, shit, she didn't know me. So these are my things. They're in my mind, in my mental closet, under my rug. So I don't need to deal with these things spiritually, physically, and emotionally before I go into this marriage. But when you go into marriage, you go with your closet. And when she goes into the marriage, she comes with her closet. And then all you know is your little demons come out of your closet. And then before you know, you guys are fighting. You found love, you are blessed, and you're trusting and relying on one another. But the demons you have are manifesting, not allowing your marriage to succeed because you haven't done the work. You've just found love. And I know this sounds like it's going a bit far, but it relates to brotherhood because you are looking and craving for attention, and you found love and commitment through intimacy, and you gave everything, but you didn't do the work before the marriage. Make sense?
Yeah, there's two pieces of it too, where having a group of bros is important. There is what was I gonna say on that? There's like having the soundboard and you bring it to the table
Yeah.
and you say, hey, what should I do here? There's that discernment. And then there's also sort of the shame of it where you're like, oh shoot, if I don't bring this to the table and this blows up, I'm gonna have to answer to my bros for this, right? So there's some accountability in there. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like we were working with somebody on diet, right? And it's one thing to, okay, I know that I'm working on diet, I got to do these things, and you know, this is the path I got to take, I got to eat this, not eat that. But then there's the other factor of like, okay, I know I'm going out, and if I got to come back and tell the bros that I failed on that diet, that's going to suck. So that keeps you in check, that accountability of having to answer to your bros, not just when you want to, but all the time. That keeps you in check. That can help guide, that can guide that decision of, do I have this talk, do I do this action, or do I just let it fester and take the easy way out? And so that's a cool aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we get down to the bottom, the foundation, our values, our credo, what we call our 5 pillars, right? Those are very important, and those are the reason why this mission exists. Why guys from all around the world, like throw out some of the other countries we got guys from, right? We got a guy out in Wales, we got South Africa, we got you guys in the States, we got a few other guys in Europe also, eh?
Yeah, we got Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia. I'm not up on my current affairs, so I don't know the name.
Slovenia.
Yeah,
We
Slovenia. I know there's
we
a
we
Canadian.
got Canada for whatever that's worth.
Canada's not a country, man. We don't want to get cancelled before we even go live. Wind.
Just
Yeah.
America.
So these are brothers from all around the world, and they resonate with values, right? Because if you don't have values or a default setting, the world is going to get a hold of you and steamroll you time and time again. So I want
Yeah.
to chat a bit about that, man. Maybe we could start with the pillars. Maybe we could start top to bottom, man. Let's explain those to the guys, why they matter to us.
I think right before we jump into it, one of the things that differentiates, I mean, men's groups are nothing new, honestly. They're everywhere. You can just do a quick search online, you'll find probably thousands of men's groups, but I think our 5 core pillars is kind of one of the main differentiators of why we're better. I mean, for lack of a better word, like,
Better.
so my point of bringing that up before we dive into them is that most of the men's groups that I've seen or interacted with, they're heavily focused on like 1 to 2, and they might not even be like the same pillars, but the same general themes, but they just try to narrow in on one singular aspect of their life, and then they let all the rest of them fall by the wayside. And I think that's a huge downfall of a lot of the men's communities out there, and I think that's why a lot of them aren't very successful either. So, like, I just wanted to bring that up before we
Yeah,
dive
it's
into
the
that.
same. It's the same thing. Like there's runners groups out there, and you know there's certain groups out there. There's Facebook groups, and they, like you said, they all focus on one component, and it's like, hey, we all like this thing. Let's double down on this thing, and life is all about this thing. Meanwhile, everything else just slips to the wayside. You know, you're in the running group. No one bothers to ask, hey man, how's the finances? How's the wife and kids? You know, you leading effectively? How's all these things? And so it's we've all noticed that as a flaw. It's like, hey, instead of just highlighting this one area that we're good at and putting all the eggs in that basket, why don't we shore up the weak points and figure out how you're doing, and then let's become better than average in all of these areas rather than just focusing on this one. I mean, I'll be honest with you, church will do it the same way. Hey, we've all got this same shared faith and we're all good and well and happy. But nobody seems to care. I mean, there's churches out there, there are exceptions, but not a lot of churches are asking the hard questions of, you know, how's leading the family going, how's finances going. Let's dive deeper than just the faith piece. So we've got 5 pillars, and we'll talk about them. I like to use the analogy here in the States. I don't know if they're worldwide, but we had like the F3 workouts and stuff. I think it's like faith fitness fellowship or something like that. Well, this is like that on steroids. This is the whole picture. This isn't let's just meet up and talk about some things we have in common. This is like let's talk about the things we have in common, and let's talk about all the other things in our life that maybe we can share wisdom and knowledge on and just pull each other up in all areas. Anyway, a little long-winded, but let's go into the 5 pillars.
Yeah, I mean,
Fantastic, man.
one of the biggest ones, and it ties directly into all of them, is fitness. I mean, you can't have a you can't be successful financially. You can't be successful leading a family. You're not going to have the greatest friendships if you're always in the hospital, right? Like, there's that's like, in my opinion, that's one of the core foundations for every part of life. And it's not just physical fitness; it's mental fitness as well. Because you can have a sound body if your mind is shot, then all of the rest of the pieces fall out as well. So, I know fitness. I mean, it's been near and dear to my heart for my entire life, so I could speak on that one for hours. And I used to be a coach. I have my own podcast about fitness specifically, so I won't go too deep into it. But
I want to jump in there and just piggyback real quick is, fitness for a lot of guys, the routine and discipline that having a fitness regimen builds is almost paramount to everything else. That teaches you a lot, and that teaches you a lot about pushing to your breaking point and keeping your ego in check, things like this. But yeah, that plays well into all of the other ones. I see a lot of people, they'll have a catastrophic life event, divorce or hardship or anything like that. Sometimes, the go-to is leaning into that barbell, you know what I mean? And that's the fixer. That's the one thing you can count on. That's the staple, the foundation that, and it's not always the case, but a lot of times it is. We've got that meme we share about the Trojan horse, and it's like they're coming to the city, and then the head of the Trojan horse is fitness, and then inside is the other 4 pillars, right? It's like, come for the fitness, stay for the finances, family, friends, and the faith, right? So yeah. Anyway, fitness is paramount, and I see a lot of other groups, particularly faith-based ones. I'll go ahead and name, I'll call it out, particularly the faith-based ones that will. Again, they become one-sided. Hey, as long as we're good here, then your fitness doesn't matter. And the Better Brotherhood is here to say, wrong. That is the wrong approach. It all matters. Let's get well-rounded in all of it.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree, man. The fitness one. If I'm thinking now about Don saying that meme about the Trojan horse, I think about a little thing that was trending a few years ago, and how someone that's wounded has had a catastrophic life event. They had to have a change from something. There was this one about people breaking up and sharing it online, and the term they were using was a revenge body. So they break up with an ex, and all they do is become this chiseled Greek god, and he's like, well, this is my revenge body. Like, stuff you, I'm moving on. Or the girl doing the same thing. So if I think about it now, we would have someone saying, well, I'm successful and I'm overweight. My BMI says I'm obese, whatever it is. We're not saying that you're unsuccessful if your fitness is not up there, but we're talking about all aspects of fitness: physical, mental, and spiritual, right? You can't be putting the wrong fuel in a prime, pristine body expecting the perfect outcome. These things will catch up on you. There's a lot of people that are living this lie. Well, I've got one life. My life beyond this is eternity. So I don't have to worry. This body's brittle and doesn't mean anything to me. You might have that belief or think that, but the reality is it's about the longevity. It's about living a life of not suffering, panting, walking up 2 flights of steps, not be able to catch your breath, not be able to kick a soccer ball with your son or do some fun activities, ride, hike, whatever. That's the type of fitness we're talking about, a resilient fitness, a fitness that sets you apart from your peers, right? Look at the stands at the school, right? How many people are actively involved with their kids? That type of fitness. How many people are volunteering to be part of the football, softball, baseball team? How many people are actively involved? Yeah,
So
that's the type
you
of fitness.
said you said we're not saying you're not successful, right? If you don't have it. Well, here's the thing. You could be successful. You could be you could be an ass-kicking CEO or whatever it is. All right. But I'm here to tell you that if you're a fat mess of a CEO, maybe you're running the company good and all of these things, but you're you will be exponentially more credible if all of the things you're saying are coming from a fit body. I don't care if you're a dentist, a children's author, I don't, a psychologist. If you've got a fit body, you've got a level of credibility to you where people, I don't want to say your words carry more weight, but it's just that, like, when you see a person in shambles, you kind of have that, you almost can't help but have like a judgment piece, or it's like, oh, they can't even manage the food they're putting in their bodies, right? Like, why do I listen to their words? But when it comes to somebody who's fit, I mean, I just think of, like, let's picture like an author on a talk show and they're promoting a book, right? And they're just like kind of a fat mess, and you're like, wow, that's shambles over there. Yeah, and then you get somebody who's fit. We talked about it in the group one time, like a Huberman, maybe. You got a Huberman or like a Jock or something like that, and they're
Yeah.
out here promoting something. You're like, whoa, all right, all right. Let me hear what you're saying, right? So it matters, and like I said, it doesn't matter what your profession is or what you're trying to do. Your words just somehow carry more weight and credibility if you're a presentable human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are
No,
visually
it's
appetized.
it's strange to me, like how much denial there is around that. Like it's just human nature. Like clearly the person who's more fit is a better partner and they can provide better. I mean, if I don't know how else to say it without sounding like an asshole, but we all know deep down we have that, like we feel those things whenever we see someone who's fit. It's, as bad as it sounds, we immediately respect them a little bit more. We immediately trust them a little bit more, and it's just a insane amount of denial in the current world, in my opinion. How, I mean, the whole body positivity movement was the nonsense. I don't want to get too deep into that, but as soon as Ozempic came out, all the body positivity stuff went away, right? Like something there.
Yeah, dude. We'll talk about marriage too. I mean, think about back to when you're a teenager. What are you attracted to? What are you looking at? You're not going around looking at the fat messes. You're looking at what's attractive, at least to you as a human being. We're drawn to these other things, and then carry that forward into your marriage. Stay attractive for your spouse. You know what I mean? If you got married, when you got married, you were an attractive, decently fit person who's, I don't know, 20 years old, 25, whatever, and then you let yourself go physically, like, that's not okay. That shouldn't be the norm. That's what we call the old bait and switch. I'm going to sell you this, but then here's what you're getting later on down the line. So hope you're cool with that, right? Yeah, we can go. That's a whole other topic in
Yeah,
itself. But just
you
to
know, when you mention
go
that,
ahead.
I think about it. When from a testimonial perspective, I carry that exact example. My wife found me as this handsome, young, chiseled lad, and I became complacent. Was drinking every night, 2 quarts of beers. A quart for us is about 750 mils, so that's about 1.5 liters of beer every night to drown and suffocate from my sorrow at work and not wanting to face this thing we called life as a man with brotherhood. And lo and behold, the 75 kilogram me went up to 103 kilograms at my heaviest. And it wasn't like a rugby prop, it was an overweight, gelatinous type man. And I didn't like the way I looked and felt. Like one day I reached a breaking point. I walked past this big full sized mirror with a quart of beer. And as I was walking by, I saw my belly was ahead of me. And I was like, wow, that's actually me. And it was embarrassing. And it was the first time that this reality hit me, is that, well, yeah, I understand that I came into a marriage and I owe it to my life partner that this is who you married. But I also owe it to myself. Like, what about me? Am I happy with the way I look and feel? And that's the reality. So I'm not saying this to body shame anyone. I'll put one of those link in bios to show you a before and after picture. Barrett, remember that? To show them a before and after. The walrus to the leopard seal. I don't know what that example was, but yeah, it's that far apart. That far apart. I was way overweight, and then I find myself back where I needed to be, because it started with this belief that I now fight for a purpose that's bigger than myself. It's the authority given to me from a God that I love to fight for a family. I've been given this wonderful wife that I should be able to protect. And I've been given a son. At the time I had one son, and I should be the example I need to model for him. And that was the breaking point for me. So, yeah, for me, there's no going back. There's no going
Yeah,
back.
it ties directly in with the family pillar. I think you have to be, I mean, I'm just going to keep sounding like an asshole, but you have to be,
Send it, bro. That's what we do over here.
you have to be physically and mentally fit to be able to lead your family. Like I'm just imagining me as a kid, and my dad was always pretty fit, and I just don't think I would have respected or listened to him as to the degree that I did if he could hardly get off the couch, or he's like, "Hey, can you go grab me some more Cheetos or another beer?" And like, I don't know. I don't see fathers being able to lead their families if they can't even get off the couch.
So there's a certain respect that is demanded, even when you're playing with the kids, when you're wrestling with the kids, when you're at the playground with the kids. There's a certain, because I've done a lot of call it mentoring kids with my Friday fun nights where I get kids together and all that stuff. Kids just automatically respect an adult that is faster and stronger than them. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And especially as they age and get into teenagers, there comes that point when your kid is faster and stronger than you. I see it as my personal goal to put that off as long as possible, right? So, they turn 16, they start getting a little bit of an attitude. You can still show them what's up. You can still show them, nope, I am the boss here, and this is why, right? Um, I wanted to expand upon something else you said about leading and protecting the family is a big piece of it too. And I talk about this a lot, and it's probably a whole podcast in itself. But when you look the part, when you look like you can handle yourself, you're offering a layer of protection over your family anytime you're out in public, right? You got a criminal that's going to steal a purse or assault somebody or whatever it is. He ain't going after the dudes that are jacked and carry themselves with their chest out and chin up that can look like they're going to handle their business. He's going after the weak, frail one, right? So, it's not always about, hey, you gotta bench press 315 pounds and you got to go to jujitsu. You got to do all of these things. Sometimes just looking the part and being above average is going to offer that layer of protection that's going to stop an altercation before it even starts. So, as the provider of your family, I do believe, or I'm sorry, the protector, you've got a role, and that role starts before an altercation even ever kicks off. You can de-escalate that just by looking the part.
Dude,
Yeah.
you completely nailed it. There was an interview that I listened to, or maybe I just read it fairly recently, in the past month or so, and they were interviewing one of the most prolific pedophiles that's been caught, essentially. And they were like, "How did you find so many kids?" And he said, "I would look for weak fathers." That's all he said.
Oh my gosh.
That's all he said. He's like,
That
I
is
would be
demonic.
walking around, I would look for weak fathers, and then I would target that kid. And I like, I have goosebumps right now because that
Yeah,
infuriates
I
me.
do too, dude. I do too.
The
Because
reality about it is it's not a yesteryear thing. There are people walking around right now as we speak doing that exact same thing, prying on the weak.
yeah, yeah.
So
I got a shot of adrenaline right now, so I'm a little hyped
I
up.
know, dude. I
I
know.
feel you. It makes
I
my
know.
blood boil. It makes my blood boil.
Same
But
here.
yeah, man, I'm happy we jumped straight into family. The thing about being the lead at home or the leader in your household, right? We've got this massive rise of ladies taking control in the corporate world, in churches, in
Yeah,
all this place. And this is not a podcast for religion, money, and politics. Those are worldly things. We are speaking the truth here, right? So the reason that happens is because there's an absence of men stepping up, men that don't lead at home, men that come with their titles and forget to hit that switch to say, I'm no longer the suit, I'm no longer the VP, the CEO, the director. Now I've got to be the one that has the goo goo gagas. I've got a baby. I've got to be sexy for my wife. I've got to be able to smack on my ass and show that I'm still romantic. I've got to be able to take off my suit and go kick a soccer ball with my son in the park. I've got to do something. And there's this fine switch when it comes to guys getting validated, affirmed, and lifted up to a pedestal and being renowned for something. It's this pride thing, right? When you push your shoulders back in the office, when you have this title, when you've got your corner office space, you're established, you've made it. And guys think that they don't have this at home. And this is a mindset thing. They often find themselves, like, if I think about that acronym of fear, right? False evidence appearing real. Like, you think about something so much that you've put yourself in this position to believe it, when it's not a reality. Like, so many of these issues that we face with regards to women and men not respecting each other in our household could be fixed with a simple conversation. Just to coming back to doing some introspection to say, where am I? What am I doing in my job? What am I not doing at home? And sometimes it's the hard and simple conversation of taking your partner, holding her hands and looking her in the eye. Remember, we said that on one of our groups the other day. Ask your wife on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? Love, wife, lover, partner, my everything, my cupcake, whatever you want to call her. How am I leading this household? How am I leading this household? And it's a reality that we don't want to face, because sometimes we don't want to accept constructive criticism. We don't like it. It affects our ego. But it's not about ego. It's not about ego.
Yes. So what Redmond is referring to, we don't share things that are in the group, but I will share this component. Redmond is referring to, in the group the other day, in the Better private group, the question was actually asked to the gents in there. How are you? Ask your wife. You were challenged. Ask your wife to rate you on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you doing leading the family? Think about the power in that. Think about, just for anybody listening to this right now, think about you asking your wife that question. You were challenged by a bro to ask your wife that question. And you're like, oh, I don't know that I want that answer. That should be the proverbial wake up call, right? We call that a little red flag. If you're afraid of what that answer is going to come back as, if you know deep down that you've let that wife take the pants in the household, and it's okay to, you've got your duties, they're the nurturer or whatever. It's okay to, work and lead, but I'm talking about the actual pants. When it comes down to brass tacks, you got to be wearing those. They can't, you don't want to just be handing those over to the wife and letting her run with those. And I wanted to mention too, another point about the 1 to 10 scale. Measuring things is where I'm going with this. At your job, and Redmond touched on this, at your job, you've got a certain value, you've got a certain salary, you've got a metric, you've got a, promotions, you've got I'm trying to think of the word, the review, the annual review, right? You've got that, and your boss is going to say, okay, here, you're doing well on this, you're not doing well on this is what we got to do. You get a little pat on the back, little bonus, you're feeling good, right? Well, that scale doesn't exist for your family. No one is going to come in and say, all right, let's grade your family. Let's see how you're doing in leading a family. You got a 10 here, a 1 here, whatever it is. We don't get quantified. Men, I mean, I don't know if all men are like this. I like to quantify. And, it's almost like normal for that job to groom you for being quantified on things and scaled on things. Then you abide by that. Well, like I said, you don't get that in the family. You've got to either do that on your own, or, your brothers can see you. They can see what you're doing. In the Better group, I actually encourage a weekly review where you look back on the past week and you see, how did I do from a family aspect. I even encourage family meetings in there. Hey, if you haven't had a meeting, check in from time to time with your family. Ask them how you're doing. Ask for feedback. And I don't just mean the wife. Ask your kids, how am I doing as a dad? So we post these things. We talk about these things. I'll remind you of them every week. I'll say, hey, do these things, because it's so easy to coast, right? Without somebody pinging you and reminding you, without somebody saying, hey, ask your wife how you're doing. It's so easy to just not do that, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's cool that happens in the group is, if you're not leading effectively and you see other guys posting pictures of picking apples with the family, playing in the creek with the family, out there playing on the playground or whatever it is, reading a book, that's contagious. You pick up on that and you see, oh man, Barrett posted a picture of picking apples with his kids. When's the last time I did something with my kids? And then you just start scratching the head and you're like, I respect Barrett as a man and he's doing these things. I've noticed I'm not doing these things. Maybe I should do these things, right? If you don't have this brotherhood group, you don't have that, you never have that checkup. You never have that idea put in your head that you got exposed to, like, oh, maybe I should be doing this. So that's just another one of those huge benefits of having a brotherhood.
Awesome, man.
Love it.
We've touched on fitness and family. Barrett, what's the next one you want to tackle?
Let me see here. Fitness, family, finances is a pretty decent one. I mean, there's a weird taboo, and I don't know if it's United States culturally, but so many. I mean, I openly talk about salaries and financials and investments and stuff with a lot of my friends, and I notice only a couple of them will reciprocate that and be willing to talk about it. And there's this weird, like I said, I don't know if it's a United States thing, but there's this weird pride thing that you tie your self-worth to your net worth, and it's troubling to me in a way because it like gives the power to the establishment essentially. If we can't have open communications outside of work environments about, hey, I make this is what I do, or I'm investing here, here's my returns, that kind of stuff, it's almost like you're completely isolated. And then the establishment, I guess, for lack of a better word, they have all the power and control over that because they can dictate, okay, so you're a software engineer, you have this much experience, we're only going to give you this. We're like, yeah, my buddy down the road does the exact same thing and he makes twice as much. So it's a weird thing. And if you don't have a brotherhood like this where you can openly discuss things like that, um, eh, you need that level of trust and comfort. And that's one of the things that having the community of men like this provides for me personally.
I'll pick up right there. I talked about the family aspect, and you see people doing things, and it's contagious, and you ask yourself, "Hey, maybe I should be doing that." The financial piece is a very similar vein. I mean, they're all a similar vein in that we become complacent or stuck with our financial situation. You know how easy it is to just you get stuck in that comfort zone, and you should be doing better and looking for more and earning more, investing more, but you're just stuck in that routine. It's
Murphy's Law.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we're still here.
All right. So where was I with that? It's normal to stay in that comfort zone of the old job because it's familiar, it's known, rather than trying to get something else or whatever it is. So that same thing applies. Is the brotherhood is contagious, all right? You see a guy in the brotherhood that's killing it, or he's talking about his investment returns, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should be doing that, right? But that pings, if you don't have anyone in your life that you're having these conversations with, you never know and you never get exposed to someone doing better than you. And it never dawns on you that, oh, maybe I should ask them what they're doing that I'm not. So, that's just another cool piece of it. That's how this
So,
works. We openly talk about it.
and I just love the fact that we didn't have a deep discussion about how this would go before the time, but testimony is this gift that keeps on giving. When you realize you face all these things through adversity, there's nothing the enemy can use to throw against you. And for me, the financial part was one that I was really worried about because we grew up really poor in a very bad or run down neighborhood and come from an environment where there was just a mother, a present but absent father that I seen once or twice a year. And I've shared with you guys before, he was like a Frank Gallagher. If you've watched Shameless, the American type, that was my dad. He would show up, throw money, throw gifts, throw whatever he had at the time at you, but there was no bestowing of masculinity. And when it comes to the financial part, if I made a few rand that I didn't have, I deemed that successful. And I realized why it's difficult for men to speak because I'm not in that place. But at some point, I thought I was getting there and I had to kind of course correct myself. The reason is guys feel that they are exposing a part of their self. They are being vulnerable to an extent that they don't want to if they share their financial situation for you. But they can, once again, that could be that fear acronym, right? They are thinking themselves into inaction. And that's not always the case. I think we've seen some remarkable examples on our front, time and time again, where guys have shared something and got a bit of direct advice. We've got a lot of people in our space. We've got people that are software engineers. We've got people that are theologians. We've got financial people. We've got teachers. We've got people from all walks of life. And all of that doesn't mean that they are professionals in the environment and they are the be all and end all. It just means that there are multiple viewpoints. What happens is when we get prideful and boastful is our perspective starts to get so narrow that we don't listen or believe anything anyone else says. And for me, that financial component is vital. It really is vital when it comes to, I'm not saying you should tell everyone your credit card debt and this and that, but if you have debt, it should be a thing that you should be able to expose so people could help you get out of that. I, for one, am speaking about these 5 specific pillars, but between my wife and I, we don't have a massive retirement fund. We don't own the property we stay in, but we are making means to get there, and it's a work in progress. It doesn't mean that because you didn't start at 23, 4 years out of varsity, you got your first job and you started investing, you're a failure. What do they say, Don, about the best day to start is? The
Today,
day off.
now,
right? Today,
yesterday, whatever. Yes,
exactly.
I say yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, if we could go back in time, right? But if you missed out, there's always the next day or the present to start. You, from a financial background, knows that there is a way to salvage something when it comes to poor financial decisions. And it just takes, I think the biggest thing for men is that pride thing once again. That pride
Always.
thing.
Yeah. I want to expand upon that. With the pride thing, it's so easy to feel less than. All right. If you got, like, I know some ass kickers out there, right? I know some people that make some money, right?
Yeah.
And there's a certain pride thing where you're like, well, I don't want to ask them for help because I'm just, little old me is over here. You know, they're up here and little old me is down here. And this is, you know, I'm going to show it's going to look weak and vulnerable and all that. It's like, no, not up in here. We're here to destroy that. You are not less than. So long as you're willing to ask, willing to listen, learn, and don't forget the last one, apply. As long as you're willing to do those things, you are not less than in any single way. So, yeah, it's not, you shouldn't feel bad about that. And that's when you're surrounded by bros who have a culture of being open and asking these things, you're just much more encouraged. You just feel better about being able to ask these things. Yeah, that's just a whole nother piece of it.
Yeah, and that
Yeah, man.
apply
So
piece is crucial because yeah, you can. I mean, you can sit there and mentally masturbate by reading books all day, but once you start applying things, that's really where the difference comes in. And that also ties in exactly with the brotherhood. Is we're gonna hold your ass accountable. Like if you say, "I want to lose X weight" or "I want to eliminate this credit card debt," if you put that in there and put that into the group, we are gonna follow up with you and hound you almost in a way that you're not, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but that's the whole point is you can't change unless there's discomfort. And having a group of people who are in it for your best interest, we're not here to be assholes, although sometimes it happens because it's needed, but the whole point is we're going to hold you accountable.
that is my favorite pillar. But all the theoretical knowledge in the world, gents, both of you alluded to it, but without the practical application of the theoretical knowledge that we've studied over and over again, once again, that thing that gets us from inaction to action is not needing to know A to Z. Even I believe if we knew A, B, C, and we just were missing Z, we wouldn't start because we want the whole path plan, the provision. We want everything laid out. We just don't start. But we have the knowledge, the books, the podcasts. We live in a place where media is such a wonderful resource. You can learn, become, do anything at your fingertips. Everything's available on YouTube. It's almost inexcusable. I'm having a chat with my 15-year-old now who's in grade 9 going to grade 10 next year. And I'm saying that you are on a level playing field. When you graduate school, I don't know what you call it there. We call it matric. So that's your 12th year of study. Then you have the ability to go to varsity. So I'm telling you, when you leave that, everybody takes a gap year. Others go to uni if their marks were good and they accepted. But others go and apply for jobs. And those jobs sometimes without experience are internships. And right now, you are going to be jammed like sardines in a can going to apply for internships What are you doing to set yourself up now as a 15-year-old to set yourself apart from these people? Are you going to be as ruthless as possible, get as enough skills as you can, that when you go and apply and all your buddies are going on a gap year to Costa Rica and traveling the world on daddy's money, you can actually start earning as a blue collar worker because you started as a 15-year-old and you've built that grit. Grit is another thing I want to touch on, and that we'll get to that when it comes to the friends pillar. But Don, over to you.
Yeah, yeah. One point before we segue, I want to share this about the overall goal of the Better Brotherhood. Not overall, but a future side goal is I envision having our kids get into a group like this. Particularly the better one would be like a son's,
Yeah.
but I can see a daughter's aspect, a family aspect. But that's one of the things that just within our group, we're trying to steer our kids in the right direction, and we do that by bouncing off ideas and seeing how other people are doing it. But man, I'll tell you what, when the time is right, if my son gets in this group, imagine the unfair advantage he would have if he gets in here as a young man and is just surrounded by dudes that are constantly bouncing ideas off each other and talking deep things that matter. I mean, we're just talking cheat code right now. So that's one of the things that I envision here. If we keep this rolling and keep going, we find success with it. Let's get our sons in this group and let's just absolutely strap them for the future, right? But pivoting over into the faith aspect of this, we're talking about finances right now. I'm looking at a verse, 1 Timothy 5:8. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Right? So, if you're sitting here and you're big on the faith component, if you're a Christian man and you're not doing your duty and providing for that family, I've got some bad news for you. That's not exactly a biblical practice. So, with that, I just wanted to segue us into the faith aspect and say that we do all of these things. We've got these 5 pillars, we have all these chats, these meetups, these things, but that's all got to fall in line with our own personal faith as well. We've got some Christian guys in the group, we've got non-believers in the group, we've got all sorts, and within the group we've got to be respectful and open and be able to have gentlemanly discussions about these things, because we're not all on the same page. There's some of us that want nothing to do with it, and there's others of us that want to go deeper, and we're here to help guide those conversations. And I actually wanted to touch on this. I keep forgetting to mention it. We talked about Redmond. You talked about being overweight. You talked about maybe not owning the home or not being financially at the end game. I want to mention that, and this is important, here in the Better Group, we ain't all perfect. We're not all, I'm not what you deem a financial coach. I mean, I can do that. It's fine. And, Barrett happens to be a personal trainer. We've all got some physical things, some physical training that we're learning and doing. We're not all perfect. We're not all here to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, do what I'm doing. We're all here getting better, sharing that knowledge, tapping one another. So I just wanted to clear that air. It's like, hey, we don't think we're perfect over here. We're all a work in progress. And one area that we can be a work in progress on, and shoot, I'm a work in progress on, is the faith aspect. I think a lot of people, whether you're a beginner or even whether you're really far along in your faith journey, I think we all sort of admit to some degree that we're not as far along as we want to be, right? We're never done with that piece. We're always exploring. If any of you, particularly Redmond, I know this is the hot button for you, but if anybody wanted to take that a step further and expand upon that, go for it.
Awesome, man. The faith part, like I said, it's my favorite. It's my favorite pillar because I'm obviously born again, and like you alluded to, we have people from all walks of life: atheists, agnostic, Christians, prosperity Christians, whatever you want to call them, happy-go-luckies. I, we referring to that word faith, of having a belief that is bigger than your selfish ego and your own personal desires, that you push everyone aside, a family that's been birthed from you, seed, a wonderful wife that you made, and the covenant to become one that you push aside because of your selfish desire. So, what is that belief that's intrinsic, that's driving you? And this is one thing I love, because this isn't scripted at all. But back to your verse, if you cannot provide for your family. And this is where we could get into a theological discussion, but we aren't theologians. But at the end of the day, the word will do what the word needs to do, and that's bring the truth out, because it says he's the way, the truth, and the life. My take on that verse is that as a born again believer, the one thing I get to give my kid is the word of God, like the wisdom that King Solomon's sword that I've spoken to you guys about before. And I believe in that context, he's actually referring to, if you cannot provide for your family, you're with an unbeliever. I do believe there's an aspect in that, as in there's a supernatural protection, there's a loving, there's a care. But I ultimately believe that it's the bread of life. I believe it's like giving them the word, teaching them and showing them who God is. That's what I believe. So maybe there's a financial component, maybe not, but I wanted to
I
share that.
love that. I love that because see, I've always heard it from a financial perspective, and I love
Yeah,
that because this is what this group does. This is what it does. This is you're watching it unfold. It's like I had an understanding of it this way. He's got an
yeah.
understanding of it that way.
And
This
well, I
is
don't agree with
this
God. I'm
yeah.
even get
No,
agree.
this is wow. This is I'm so glad. I'm so glad that's so
Yeah,
awesome that this is
yeah,
actually how and I'll say right now, I mean at this particular time, the Faith Channel happens to be absolutely booming. It's awesome in there. I can
Yeah.
barely
daily,
keep up, but this is
absolutely.
exactly what happens in there. I love it, man. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
It's like I
I'll,
learned something today. I learned something every day.
same here. I want to hear what Barrett has to say, but before that, like, if I go back to the fact that he's the way, the truth, and the life, you know. So that's my take. He's the way, the truth, and the life. When I had nothing, he picked me up. When I had something, I was reminded of the fact that he showed up for me in a big way. So that's my belief. But we'll get a lot of topics or discussions about that offline. Barrett, tell us about your faith.
It's been an interesting ride. I mean, I grew up in a pretty hardcore fundamentalist Christian upbringing, non-denominational. I don't think my parents were ever members of churches by choice. I don't remember why they didn't, but I just remember them saying they would never be a member. Yeah, it's like I said, it's been an interesting ride. I never got any of the questions answered that I wanted growing up. So I'd always, like I said earlier, I'm always endlessly fascinated with things, and I'd always question everything. I mean, I still do, to my detriment and my betterment. But I I don't know. I think I bothered a lot of the pastors and stuff that I grew up with, or the clergy, or any of the people that were doing the youth groups and stuff that I attended, because I'd always just question everything. If I didn't understand, if things didn't make sense to me, I would just say why. I would I was silenced a lot, just told, don't worry about it, or um, God works in mysterious ways, which is the most annoying thing I've ever heard in my life. But it's simultaneously true. So it's a weird bitter pill to swallow at the same time, because obviously we're all humans and flawed in God's eyes, so we're really not going to know all of the answers. And especially if you're an adult and you have some 7-year-old kid asking you, well, what does this mean? That doesn't make any sense. And they don't know. So they're like, oh, well, God works in mysterious ways. So just take it. Like, all right, I'll move on from there. Um, I, uh, I lost my faith at some point. I don't know a specific moment, I guess. And it's a weird battle that I've always had in my head too, because I don't know. I mean, growing up with it all, and it's like all of the core virtues and values of the Christianity belief system is definitely instilled in me. I have a lot of respect for all of the beliefs, um, not necessarily the supernatural stuff. I look at them more as fables, with a lot of really good core messaging. I don't take don't take a lot of it at face value. But like I've read the Bible several times over, and I've spoke with many Christians who've never actually fully read the Bible, and I always thought that was odd. I mean, they'll read bits and pieces, piecemeal here and there. They'll read whatever they're doing in church. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird eternal battle with me, I guess. I guess part of me wants to believe it, just kind of give it up and just surrender, I guess, for lack of a better word. But there's
That's the
also the other
perfect word.
side of me where I struggle with that because I have too many questions that are unanswered, and I can't, or I won't, just take things at face value.
The questions are cool. You know, Barrett's got questions, and it's cool because we've got some studs in the group that can answer those questions. We all try to answer those questions, but here's the kicker: we answer them in a respectful, objective manner, where it's
Yeah,
like, okay, I see that you answered my question, but I don't understand that. I took that as like word salad, and like it sounded good, but I'm not getting it. Whereas sometimes with a pastor or something, you'll feel like Barrett said, he got shushed a lot, right? With a pastor, sometimes you ask him a question and he'll give you something and you're like, oh, okay. And then you go home and you're like, wait, but that didn't really answer it. You know what I mean? Like this gives you a chance to go deeper. And again, we've got this agreement within the group that we're going to be respectful and objective about these things. We can discuss these things without hurting feelings and with respect. The question side is awesome. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry, go ahead, Redmond.
yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing is, and that's one thing that turned me away from my faith. I sat in pews and the hardest wooden benches, and I had to wear corduroy. I mean, I had to wear slacks and checkered shirts, and I had to stand up and sit down, and I wasn't allowed to question. And to me, that was the thing that turned me away. And at the age of 13 or 12, I said, the man that mattered to me, my father who birthed me, the only, not birthed me, my father who brought me into this world with a loving mother, was the man that meant something to me. And he walked out of my life. So no man will tell me what to do. And I turned away from my faith at that time and never looked back. And I was kept in this habitual cycle of sin, repetitiveness over and over again. And I'd taken a sip of every part of the world thinking, where's the end? When do I get better? When do I get my healing? When does it come to an end? And the only time it changed is when I moved from understanding that theology is important and we study the word to make ourselves competent and approved. But beyond that, it's a personal, individual relationship with a God who loves you and cares for you. And that's where I realized I got the love, and all those little questions that weren't answered started to make sense. And I could get answers of them when I started looking at through the lens, like my God can answer me through the word. And I can tell you now, man, I have been a born again Christian for 10 years now. Since 2015, I came back, and life's been pleasant, but it's also finding the right community, the right people. You know, there are a lot of churches that are, and this isn't to bash the church, because when I say the church, it's the body of Christ. You're an arm, I'm a leg. We are part of the church together in different parts of the world. But the actual building is where we go and gather on a Sunday. And that building sometimes does more harm than it does good. When there are people put in power on pedestals that do not have individual relationships with the loving, benevolent Father in God, the Father Himself, or the triune God, Father, Son, Spirit, but they've just got this theological certificate. They've got a certificate that says they are theologically sound, but they don't have the stripes. They don't have the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears. So go ahead, Don.
I was gonna say too that I mentioned about being imperfect here, and this is a cool discussion, and you're gonna witness firsthand some of the vulnerability that we share in this brotherhood, because I'm gonna be vulnerable and I'm gonna say I'm not perfect, and I had fallen off the wagon here recently with respect to getting in the word daily, right? I had questions on, why do I need to continue? Where's the end? What, how far do I take this thing? What is it? being in this group has pushed me to take a plan of action. I see these guys posting in there, and again, it's contagious. You see these studs that you respect posting in the faith channel, and you're like, ah, shoot, I'm missing that piece. You know what I'm saying? And then you go back and you're like, all right, fine, no, I'll get back in it. Right. But if you don't have that happening, then you don't know that you've drifted and you've dropped a piece because look, life will get busy. And I promise you, life's going to get busy and things are going to come up and you're going to look at what can I drop? What can I drop to free up some capacity? Right. Sometimes it's that word, right? Sometimes it is. And sometimes it is not the right thing to do. But I will admit, I will be vulnerable. That piece slipped. And it was this brotherhood that made me realize that and brought me back in, that I fell off the wagon and need to get back in. And so, I want to expand upon that and say not just the faith piece, but like all of these pieces. As men, we're charged with leading. We got all of these things rolling around in our head. Am I fit enough? Am I providing enough? Got to spend time in the work. Got to get a date night with the wife. Got to spend one-on-one time with the kids. We got all of these things, and it can feel tremendously like just relieving to just unload that in the group. You know what I mean? Like you've got all these things bumbling around and now you've got a hub where you can just talk to people about it. You can unload it and you can get help with that situation. If I realize that I dropped the daily time in the word, someone else can say, well, hey, what are you doing? Is this really that important that you've dropped that? Or let's take a look at your daily routine. What are you spending time on? You always use the classic like Netflix. Let's drop that and get back in the word. Or we can pivot, right? Versus just out there coasting, drifting, not having to own our current situation, not having to own that we fell off the wagon and need to get back. And we know that's the right thing to do, but we're just putting it off. So again, it's just, you see studs out here killing it, posting in the faith channel, posting in the finance channel, whatever it is. You're reminded, oh, there's guys killing it in this area and I'm not. Right. So that's just a cool aspect of that.
I want to add one thing with regards to before we wrap up the 5 pillars. So we've explained them: faith, family, fitness, finances, and friendship. And at any point, any of us jump.
Did we hit friendship? Did we hit friendship?
Oh, no, we're going to
I
hit
don't know if we
friendship.
did.
But
Okay,
the
yeah.
ones that we hit so far have all tied into one another. And on that note about being vulnerable, I'm currently, I don't like the word dieting because it almost seems like I'm this bulimic little princess regurgitating food. I'm not dieting. I'm just trying to get a change of lifestyle, nutrition, right? And I'm a fatty of some sorts. And I've let myself go over the month of August and September. It's wifey's birthday, and I've been eating good, living good. And I decided I'm going to eat really ridiculously high protein, clean meals. And consciously, I knew that if I post one, I'm going to do it every day, even though I didn't want to. And I think I'm going on maybe 35 pictures of food porn. Every day I send my images, my receipts to the gentleman in the street saying, here we go, signed, sealed, delivered, another high protein meal, 40 to 70 grams of protein per serving, nothing less. That's the standard. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, there are fatties looking there, eating their ice cream and their chocolates, and they're like, shit, Redmond's posting these healthy meals again. Better get my fat ass off the couch. I know that. I know that. And the only reason I've been able to find that momentum and that shift into posting these things is because I've seen the guys posting in the workout channel, posting in the faith channel, posting in the finance channel, posting whatever one of the 3,500 channels we've created. There's someone doing the work. And that one thing is the motivation you need for the next thing. So never take for granted that one thing is so far removed from your thing. You'll be surprised that how everything is intertwined, literally everything. So yeah, man, over to friends.
Yeah. Let me expand upon that. Like, so one of the other things we like to do in the Brotherhood is keep guys from chasing shiny objects. That's a personal vendetta of mine. Like, is I'll stop somebody if we're sharing workout routines and somebody sees somebody doing something awesome and they're like, oh, I need to do those. I'll be like, whoa, hold on, just Let's make sure it's not a shiny object. Just because he's doing it doesn't mean it's conducive to your goals. So if you're working on this, don't go pick the. I understand he's a badass and it looks cool as hell. I understand, Barrett runs with 40-pound plates or whatever. Let him do that. If that is not conducive to your goal, do not do that, right? Also, he may be conditioned to handle that type of thing. You're not. We're going to be doing a ruck here for me locally, and that'll segue into the friendship piece. We're getting together with some Better Bros on October 5th here, and we're going to do a ruck. And the first thing I'm going to say to a guy that hasn't rucked before is don't put 70 pounds in your pack. Put 10, put 20. We don't, just because it's badass and I'm doing it, that doesn't mean that's where you start, right? And so we caution against these things. So rolling right into friendship, there's like the most glaring obvious piece of the virtual network is you get these friends worldwide. I mean, shoot, I could travel to South Africa and I got Redmond over there. I could travel to Canada, which I wouldn't do. But if I did, I would have somebody over there, and so on. And so if I go to the UK, I got somebody over, I got a place to stay. I got somebody to visit. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's so cool to be talking to people just worldwide and have bros worldwide. That's so cool. But that's actually the low hanging fruit here. That's almost the default. You get in, you get bros all over the world. It's super cool. And if you ever decide to leave the group, you've got these connections are for life, right? They don't, hey, so if you leave the group, we're not going to talk to you no more. No, these connections are for life. But the other piece of this is locally. We talked at the very intro, we talked about people just starving for brotherhood, camaraderie, and they're all doing it alone. And people have friends, but maybe they don't chat, they don't check in, they don't even have time. They're not managing their life such they have capacity to even hang out with friends. And there's power in that. Iron sharpens iron. We know that one. You got to get around them. So one of the goals, one of the things we try to do here in the brotherhood is we try to start at the bottom and create men with authenticity and what I call magnetism. We want guys that can go out into the real world, speak their piece, and attract the right kind of people into their lives. If you've just been hanging out with the same friends since you have been in high school, we call it the crabs in a bucket analogy, right? Where you're trying to go up and they just keep trying to pull you down and keep you where you're at. If that's where you're at, we got to get you to believe in yourself and have confidence enough in yourself that you speak your mind and you start saying things that'll either cut out this dead weight and start attracting other people. That's a wild thing. That works. That happens. It happened to me. You start dropping the wrong people, pick up the right people. But and then one of the other things we envision for the group is local chapters. I mean, if you can start doing that and you start attracting people, people say, hey, Redmond, he's changed a little bit. Some people are going to say, I don't like the new Redmond, but there's going to be other people that Redmond didn't know very well. They're going to be like, whoa, I like the new Redmond. I like this. What's going on over here? So we're looking at starting local groups wherein our members can say, you know what? I've done a lot of work. I think I'm capable of leading other men. I'd like to start a local chapter, right? And so just picture local chapters of these better brotherhoods popping up all over the world. And rather than your friends that could give a care less how you're doing, they never check in, whatever, everybody's you're checking in. You got a local community, local network of guys that actually care and they want to help you level up. And I mean, guys, the possibilities once we get to these local chapters, the possibilities, I mean, like, we look at a whole revamp of the community structure. It's crazy. I don't want to go too far into the rabbit hole, but I just want to say that the low hanging fruit is friends all over the world virtually, right? But then there's a whole other piece that's building up guys to build their local communities and pick up friends in the real world. We have real world hangouts. Like I said, we got a ruck coming up. We're going to get together. 2026 is going to be the aesthetic year of the Better Bros. We're all going to get shredded up. We're going to drop weight. We're going to be doing obstacle course races. We're going to be doing the Spartan races. We're doing War Axe. War Axe is an awesome it's like a Spartan on steroids. That is an annual event for the Better Bros. We're going to be there. But the more local footholds we can get, the bigger this gets, the more local events we're going to do. We actually did a virtual fitness challenge. We did a body weight challenge where we over Zoom got together all over the world. We had a 30-minute body weight exercise session where we all just spammed squats and pull-ups and push-ups and dips and saw who could bring in the most, the most points. And we actually did that with other men's groups. Kind of called some people out because we saw the fitness piece slipping from other men's groups. But regardless, that's kind of the gist of where we go on the friendship piece of this whole thing. If either of you want to pick up, expand upon anything that I didn't mention.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the Better Brotherhood in general. And I spoke on it briefly in the intro of how men's groups are really not anything new. And you can find hundreds of digital ones all over the place. And they specialize in one area, again, where they fall off with the others. But that's the that's the biggest main differentiator, in my opinion, for what we're building here is we're bridging the gap between the digital and the real life. And the biggest focus on everything that we're building here is actually the real life community aspect of it. And that's near and dear to my heart, and something that was personally lacking in my life is I just don't have a good community or good camaraderie and fellowship of men in real life. All of this digital stuff is awesome. It helps me feel less lonely, not just in general, but like mindset loneliness. I feel, but there's just nothing about sitting around a campfire with a bunch of dudes just trash talking each other. Really, I mean that's one of my favorite parts of it. But and Redmond does his thing over there, and I'm incredibly envious of that, and I'm trying to facilitate that from my local area. And like I said, that's the biggest differentiator for us is that we are bridging the gap between the digital fellowship camaraderie that we all have, and we're actually going to be hanging out with each other, and I love that part.
Yeah, friendships for me are vital. I had a lot of, and I think the term is acquaintances. A lot of people you
Mm-hmm.
share an office space together. You have lunch once or twice. Say, let's hit up the local takeaway spot. You start talking. There's a few similarities. People sell their souls too quickly to say that's a friend. Those aren't acquaintances. Those are people that we get to know. Sometimes you have a few of them at church. You have a few of them around the sports field. Maybe you collect your kids at school and you watch them play football or baseball, and you sit around with these parents. These are acquaintances. I think uh, I'm trying to say it the right way without stuffing it. For me, acquaintances know your name and where you're from, but friends know your story. The two of you guys know my story, and we've shared this in the brotherhood. I think most of the people there can reiterate each other's stories. We know our backgrounds. We know who has how many kids, a wife, who's done what. And I think that's the big difference. I think everybody's craving friendships, not people that remember their name. Not from a legacy perspective. There's a big difference there. But I mean from an acceptance perspective. And yeah, that's one of the greatest for me. I don't call a lot of people a friend. I think that's a I think we've heard that term before. You don't call anyone brother. They've got to earn that. So, and I think the same goes for friend. We throw that around loosely. Are your friends, acquaintances willing to bail you out in a financial situation? Are your friends, acquaintances, people that you can call on when you need something right now, regardless of what it is? How many of those people do we actually have? Like in your contact list, can you name more than five? You can
No.
pick up the phone now, come hello, high water. You know this is your go-to. Nope. You know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
term friend is really something important. I think it sits right up there with brother.
Love it.
Yeah, and the authenticity piece. I can't. Oh my gosh, we had a conversation. There's a chat going on in the private group this morning about authenticity, and I think there are a lot of guys. They're starving for friendships, but they're not being authentic enough. They don't even know what real authenticity looks like. I think I used the phrase in the chat: a man needs to be a rock, not a chameleon. We need to be the same guy, authentic. People need to know where we stand on certain things. We don't need to be in a group and fit in over here, then be in a group and fit in over here. If you're pleasing everybody, that's the wrong answer. So that's what we try to do. We try to give the guys the tools, the confidence to speak authentically, create their circle, find their people, And that's where we hope to take this thing. Gents, I got to actually get going to church. It's a Sunday morning here, so we got to go hit that faith component, right? We got to lead the family to church. We got things to do, and that's the cool thing about this. And this happens to be a podcast, but the private group works the same way. Hey, I'm enjoying this chat, but I got to do the family thing. I got to go do the faith thing, and we'll pick this back up when I'm available again. And the conversation's going to continue going on. Just because I left, the guys will keep chatting, and we'll come back and pick up where we left off. But yeah, no, this has been an awesome intro chat. We did not hit nearly what we wanted to hit. That's how it goes pretty much 100% of the time. So there's that. There's just always something brewing. If either of you want to hit some points or close us out or whatever closing looks like. I got my wife blowing up my phone right now. Hey, we got to get going. Yes, wife, we do. All right.
Darren,
So
do you want to share anything? I'll take us home.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it's all about, man. Just bros getting together, keeping each other accountable. This podcast is kind of like the first inception. We spun up the new website. We got the blog. If any of this resonates you, all the links and stuff will be down in the show notes.
And that's really epic. I've enjoyed the time with you guys, and I think whoever and wherever this reaches, guys, if you want to ignite that proverbial fire, if you want to get a kick up the arse, look no further than the Better Bros from Africa, South Africa, America, to the rest of the world. We are doing big things, and look forward to having so many guys in these channels that we speak about. This is not for one person or for somebody, it's for everybody. So if you feel that fire, like Barrett said, head on over. Appreciate you guys, man. It's been a blessing.
So we'll catch you guys later.